Hello everyone and welcome back to another manga review. Today I am reviewing volume 5 in a series that I have been reading, loving, enjoying, and that was user recommended, or viewer recommended I should say, and that is Kaguya-sama Love is War. The first thing I want to point off right off the bat is this is probably the best cover in the series so far. I'm on volume 5, and so far I have to say that the covers of this manga series has been, in my opinion, a little uninspired. The cover is definitely not the main feature of the book. I have been loving this series. This is a super funny series, a really great series, and I see why this series is popular, but the covers I feel like are maybe a weak spot because it definitely wasn't enough to grab my attention off the shelf when I have seen this series in the past. It took someone recommending me reading this to actually pull the book off the shelf. This one, though, I actually really do like. I do like the color and the way this cover is set up, so this is the best cover in the series thus far, I do have to say, and I just wanted to point that out and give credit where credit is due. It's a good cover. Volume 5. The drama continues between our two main characters, the president and vice president of the student council, Miyuki Shirogane and Kaguya Shinomaya. These two individuals have feelings for one another, and they're both trying to get the other person to confess first without giving up their own position because teenagers, because they are the best of the best and no one wants to move their position. They have it in their head that confessing their love first will be admitting defeat. And they don't want to be defeated because they are the best of the best. They are the student council president and vice president of the elite high school in Japan, and they are sons and daughters of Japan's best. So they cannot be losing in anything, including confessing their love to the other person that they are attracted to. One thing that I did like about this entry too is we now have our student council treasurer, Yu Ishigami, added to our student council relationship diagram, which helps keep everything straight. I was thinking it was about time that he was added to this diagram. He was introduced a couple volumes ago, and he's actually one of my favorite characters. This series doesn't have a whole lot of characters. Another series that I'm reading right now, Komi Can't Communicate, I feel like has a lot of characters to keep track of. This series is relatively simple. This is basically everyone you need to know right here on this page. 5 of them, 2 main ones, 2 main characters, and 3 maybe supporting characters. So it is easy to keep track of, and I do like that. We have a little diagram to keep everything straight, and we are on to the challenges. The series is set up so that each chapter is kind of a challenge in which one person is trying to get the other person to confess. So we have these very humorous battles that are set up and that have been going for several volumes. However, I think volume 5 focuses on 2 things in particular that I wanted to touch on and that I think are the main focus of this volume and that kind of take this volume to the next level. I really liked volume 5, if that wasn't obvious. Really enjoyed it. The first thing I wanted to kind of comment on was Kaguya Shinomaya's home life. So she is the daughter of a very, very wealthy family. She has a lot of wealth. She has a personal assistant. She has maids and butlers, and her life is very comfortable, and she comes from a lot of wealth and like privilege. She's able to do a lot. She's obviously attending this elite high school, and she just has a lot of money. But there's this darker side that isn't really shown until we get to volume 5. Of course, she kind of is used to ordering people around. People drive her places. Yeah, she has a driver. She has, like I mentioned before, a personal assistant. She has this other family that swears allegiance to her family that helps take care of her. So she seems to have everything going for her on the surface. But with all that comes a lot of responsibility and a lot of constraints. It's almost like this very rich prison where she can't do things that other normal people want to do that she desperately wants to be able to do. And that really hasn't been addressed up to this point, but it is addressed in volume 5, where a main point in this book is she really wants to go watch fireworks during summer vacation, particularly with her love interest. But overall, this is something that she just wants to do. She's a teenage girl who wants to go out with her friends and experience this thing, and her family has decided that it's not safe because her bodyguards could lose track of her, and basically she's not going to be allowed to do this because she's wealthy. That's the long and the short of it. She's not allowed to do this very basic thing, and she feels like even though she has all this money, all these resources, the super nice room, the super nice house, these servants, these personal assistants, these butlers, anything she could want on a golden platter, she's not able to go and do the things that she wants to do with her friends, which almost is more of a loss than any of the material stuff that she has. She wants to do this thing with friends that everyone else, it feels like in Japan, can do, but she can't. And that hurts her, and she's upset. So I feel like that aspect of her wealth hasn't been addressed, where it's all kind of just been the positives or maybe the attitude she has because of the wealth she has. We haven't really addressed the downsides or the things that she doesn't like about how much wealth she has. Or maybe not about how much wealth she has, but some of the negatives of the family that she grows up in. in which maybe family members are distant and cold. There's a lot of expectations and she's not able to do things that she wants to do that everyone else in Japan takes for granted. Everyone else takes for granted that they can go watch the fireworks with their friends, something everyone can do and everyone wants to do, but she can't do it because of the family that she was born into, basically. The second thing that I really, really liked about this volume is the feelings have intensified. So these two individuals have liked each other, they've had a crush on each other, but I feel like in volume 1, it was a little bit more of it was like a light surface level crush, and this kind of started as they wanted the other person to kind of show their hand. But I think in volume 5, the feelings for each other have deepened, and they're starting, these games I feel like are getting more and more complex to get the other person to confess, but it's kind of driven by each character's growing interest in the other. So it's not that the games are getting complex just because they're getting more complex, or like there's more steps or people are doing more work. For example, let me get back to my main character, Paige. Shirogane goes through a lot of steps to ensure that Shinomiya can see the fireworks in a manner. And I feel like the amount of work he put in was much more complex than I feel like we've seen in any of these other games that he's been playing. And I feel like that's because their feelings for each other are growing deeper, even though neither one of them are, they're not talking about these feelings to each other and they're not confessing their feelings to each other, but the feelings for each other are growing, which I feel like is kind of interesting, and I'm not really sure where this is going to go. But I do like it because I feel like as a reader, it pulls you in a little bit more. You have these scenes where instead of them just having these battles against one another, you're starting to see the affection that they really do have for one another, but they're not willing to admit they have for one another, which just adds another layer, another dimension to this series. I'm really excited to read volume 6. I want to see where the series goes. I want to see what happens next. I'm very excited. I think this is a great series. I have been having a great time reading it. I'm so glad I got the recommendation. So if you have any recommendations for manga series I should be reading, or just series in general that I should be reading, please put it in the comments below. I would love to hear it. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.